Today we've got Zeus, Donna with February, and Luca and Lara. So it's just to go over what we did last week and have a practice, see how everyone's got on, as well as improving those skills a bit further. Zeus, sit. And how we can incorporate them in everyday life. So to start with, we're going to go back to the basic sit. So as Zeus is demoing now, as luring into a sit, we're going to start adding a word to it. Yeah, ready? So we're going to get the dog nice and interested, and we're going to lure up into a sit. Good boy. And gradually we're going to start fading out the hand lure. Sit. Good boy. So once he begins to learn the word, good boy. Down. Good boy. Once he's in that position, we can tell him what we want. Hello, welcome back to our live training session. We hope you enjoyed it last week. Today we've got Zeus, Donna with February, and Luca and Lara. So it's just to go over what we did last week and have a practice, see how everyone's got on, as well as improving those skills a bit further. Zeus, sit. And how we can incorporate them in everyday life. So to start with, we're going to go back to the basic sit. So as Zeus is demoing now, as luring into a sit, we're going to start adding a word to it. Yeah, ready? So we're going to get the dog nice and interested, and we're going to lure up into a sit. Good boy. And gradually we're going to start fading out the hand lure. Sit. Good boy. So once he begins to learn the word, good boy, sit. Good boy. We can ask for the command we want. Sit. We're still using our hand signal, just to indicate to Zeus what we want. Sit. If some dogs find this difficult, you can go back to using food. But otherwise, the better they get, sit. Good boy. We can then present the food afterwards. Good boy. Come. Sit. Good boy. Remember to reward your dog each time and lure them out to ensure they know what you're asking of them. February's demoing a great sit. So is Luca. Great. So next we can go into a down. So for the down, we can start off in a sit, but we won't ask for a sit. We're simply going to lure. Then lure your dog with a nice treat on his nose, down to the floor, down. Good boy. Once he's in that position, we can tell him what we want. And again, we're going to pop him into the sit, and then lure all the way down to the floor, and reward between his paws. So this time, to extend the amount of time they're in the down for, we can reward multiple times whilst they're in that position. Some dogs will jump up quite quickly as soon as you stand up. Sit. Lure down to the floor. Good. Reward between his paws. And again. Good. The luring out position is very important for the dogs, so they learn to break from the command you're asking them instead of breaking it themselves. And gradually we can lure with an empty hand, down, and then bring the reward afterwards. once your dog has started to learn the word down, we can ask for that command. Down. Down. Good boy. You may find you have to wait a couple of seconds for their brain to engage in what you're asking them. Especially when you're first teaching this, it can be quite a difficult position for the dogs to get into. Down. Down. Good boy. So as it took him a couple of times, we'll give him a jackpot of some extra treats. Good boy. So of course with all dogs, they all learn at different stages. February is doing a very nice demo. You may find with a bit of persistence and patience, your dog will soon learn the command you're asking. Good. So Luke has picked that up really quickly. So eventually you can start building up to distance work as well with a down. Down. Ask your dog for the command again, just to remind them what you want. So down. Good. And to begin with, you can start just by rocking backwards. So for some dogs, the concept of you standing up and walking away can be a bit too much for them. So start right at the beginning. Down. Down. Very nice, Luca. Go down. Down. A little bit too far. Good, down. Good boy. So always remember, end on a positive note with training. It's so important. Even if your dog gets it wrong multiple times, go back to even just a simple lure into a down without stepping backwards to make sure your dog remembers the cue that you're asking. Good boy. And remember, a little tip to feed from the floor. If you find that you're always feeding from your hand, the dog is more likely to follow you. So as with Zeus, if I put it to the floor, he's then going to try and follow because the treat wasn't on the floor. Whereas if you on the floor, each time they'll be looking towards the ground for that treat. So next up, we're going to start introducing a bit of hill work. So for hill work, get some nice yummy treats. Just some small ones, get a nice big handful so you can reward multiple times. So with Zeus, he can be quite a mouthy dog, so we're always rewarding by having a flat palm and tucking the treat behind our thumb. Good boy. Especially if you've got children that are trying to train the dogs, if you feed them from the tips of your fingers, they're more likely to nip them. Whereas if you feed them almost like a horse, then they will just take the treat. Good boy. So to start with heel work, we want to lure our dog into the correct position and then reward on the floor. So to begin with, we're going to take one step and then reward. if you reward at the back of your heel, it will keep your dog in the correct position that you want. Good boy. Good boy, Zeus. Good boy. Nice. Yeah. And as he gets that treat, we're going to take a couple of paces forward and then drop another treat to the floor. Zeus. Good boy. You got it? Zeus. Oh, found a freebie. Zeus. Ready. Nice. Good boy. So this way your dog is learning that the reward comes from the floor at your heel. Good. Good. So you may find you may need to repeat this step a few times. Good. To ensure that they're getting rewarded for the correct position. As Zeus keeps swinging out, we lure him back and then reward him. Zeus. Good boy. Multiple times so he becomes to understand what we're asking. Good boy. So as the dog starts to understand the command that you want, you can take some extra paces in between. So we're going to reward, encourage the dog with us. Heel. Good boy. And as we walk in, we're going to start introducing the word. Ready. Good boy. Nice, good boy. So you also get a nice bit of attention as well with that. Good boy. Ready? Nice, good boy. For this we can break it down to make it nice and easy for the dog. You don't need to spend hours and hours training it, but just 5 minutes a day is more than enough to start off, especially with young dogs and rescue dogs. It can be something that can be quite difficult for them to pick up initially. There are also tools such as GenCons or head collars that you can use to help, but again these are just training tools, so they're not a quick fix. You've then got to add in an extra bit of training with that as well, but you may find that you need some extra professional help with those. Good boy. Come in. Good boy. Good boy. You find that the faster you move, the more likely the dog is to be engaged with you. Good. Very good. And then they'll stick with you. Good boy, sit. Very good. Good boy. Good, nearly. Okay, so another thing we can teach our dogs, again with our recall. Come in. So we've got another long line with us. This. Good boy. Good. So similarly to last week, what we did with Ember, we're going to throw a treat out and then recall our dog to us. Ready? Zeus, come. Good boy. Ensure to throw it in different directions to keep your dog engaged. Zeus, oops, missed it. Good boy. So as soon as your dog's eating the treat, Zeus, come. You're going to remind them what it is that you want and give them nice jackpot treats and a big reward at the end. As you're out on walks, you're going to come across squirrels, other people, dogs, so it's important to make yourselves more exciting than everything else around you. Ready? Go on then. Zeus, come. Come. Good boy. Good boy. And as he's eating those ones, Zeus, come. Good boy. Nice. Going to scatter a few more. Garden with very few distractions, as you want to make sure your dog is doing the correct thing and setting yourself up to get. Good boy. So we're going to add something extra in today. So with dogs that can be quite mouthy and strong, we've taken treats. We're going to teach them to touch. So for dogs like Zeus, this has worked really well. So simply you're going to hold a flat palm out to your dog. Yes, good boy. The minute their nose touches your palm, you're going to mark the word with yes, yes, and then reward. For some dogs, they might be interested the first couple of times and then think, oh, I get the reward from the other hand, I'm just going to go for that one. Instead, we can tuck a treat in between our fingers and then present the hand. Yes. Good boy. So this just teaches dogs to be nice and gentle with hands, whether it's children, whether it's visitors. Teaching your dog a touch, good, is a great thing for them to learn, especially when it comes to manners. Touch, good. So after repeating it about 5 times, you know your dog is consecutively touching your hand, we can add the word in. So touch. Zeus. Touch. Yes, good boy. Touch. Yes, good boy. We can change the position of the hand as well. Touch. Yes, good boy. So your dog is learning to target your hand in different areas. Ready? Go touch. Yes. Good boy. Touch. Yes. Good boy. This is also a great exercise for dogs that can be reactive to anything in the environment, whether it be squirrels, a horse passing, cars going past. It's great for something to keep them distracted. Touch. Zeus. Oops. Thanks, that was really good. Good touch. Good. And then you wait for that thing to pass, and then you can carry on with your walk. Ready? It doesn't matter what position your dog is in for this. It can be a sit, a down, a stand. Ready? Touch. Yes, good boy. Good boy. Good lad. There's nothing else we can teach our dogs. Again, going over what we did last week with the step. So the step can be something that's really, really fun for your dogs, as well as you. So for Zeus, this has worked really well, because we can get some lovely photos now from him. So teaching your dog a step. Step. Good. Zeus likes to get to the highest point he can. Ready. So step. Good. So we're asking Zeus for the commands. And if he's a little bit slow, we can then lure him again. We can start incorporating other commands in this as well, such as a sit, yep. Down, down. This can make some really cute photos. When you're at home, especially at this time, we've got plenty of time to practice this. And get our dogs posing. Down. Yes, good boy. Nice. Just a little extra something for our dogs to learn and keep them occupied during this time. Good boy. Ready? So we've also started to teach Zeus a paw. So to teach a paw, you have a nice handful of treats. You know what we want. And then we're going to let our dog nuzzle our hand. You may need to find that you need to tuck all your fingers in so they can't nibble them. And then at some point they'll get so frustrated that they'll then start offering a paw. Yes, good boy. Start offering a paw. The minute their paw goes up, we're going to mark it with a yes. Yes, good boy. And release a treat from our hand. Good boy. If you want to teach the other paw, try to yes, good boy. Transfer the dog's weight into the opposite leg. So for this paw, we're going to go that way. Yes, good boy. And then when we want the opposite paw, yes, we're going to lean him slightly to the opposite leg. Yes, good boy. So gradually we can start fading out the treats. Yes, good boy. And then reward afterwards. Good boy. Oh. This. Yes, good boy. Very nice. It's important not to hold on to our dog's legs because we don't want to frighten them. Good boy. If we start holding on to them, that's when it can set you backwards. So you want to make sure it's all nice and positive and fun for the dogs. Good boy. There's your paw. Good boy. So now, before Zeus gives his paw, we're going to get in there with the cue word. So, paw. Yes, good boy. So with teaching paw, ensure that you have different words for each paw, just so your dog doesn't get confused with which one you're asking for. So with Zeus we can do paw, do paw for his right, and then yeah, and then we could do something like 5 for his left paw. This is great because these you can adapt these tricks to start teaching your dog to wave. Yes, good boy. By doing that, you're taking your dog's head slightly higher. Yes, good boy. And then marking. Ready? Yes, good boy. So by doing that, we're not asking the dogs to touch us with their paws. Ready? Good boy. So at the moment I'm rewarding for both of them, as I haven't set a leg for that yet. And we can see which one he gives more. And then going from there, we can be more specific with which leg we want him to wave with, which one we want to paw with, to make it more fun. Good boy. Hey. Nice. Ready? So again, something else we did last week. We taught a go round. So for Zeus, this is very new. He's not yet done this. He's very excited. Good. So we're going to lure your dog. Good boy. Around the object and then reward. We start off nice and close. Good boy. You may find that it's slightly easier when you're at home in your garden. You can have your dogs off lead. Good boy. So the lead doesn't get tangled. Good boy. Very nice. And then gradually we can start building some distance with it. Okay. Ready. Oh, might have dropped one. Good boy. Come here. Ready. Around. Good boy. Nice. And then gradually we can start building more distance with that, which will help again with distance work. We can start teaching our dogs to stay at the cone and then go into a sit or a down from there. Just ready? Yeah. Ready, what's this? There's lots of yummy smells on the floor today. Good boy. So, for another bonus trick, we can also teach our dogs a beg. The Zeus gets very excited when it comes to training. So we can remember to tuck all our hands in. Yes, good boy. And we're going to lure the treats just above the dog's head. Yes. And the minute their front paws come up, yeah. Good boy. We're going to mark the command with a yes. Yes, good boy. So ideally we don't want our dogs resting on us, as they'll learn to build up their own core strength. Yes, good boy. So even if it starts with a slight yes, good boy. And then we can add in the command. Beg. Yes, good boy. Beg. Yes, good boy. Beg. Yes, good boy. So that time he had an empty hand, and then he gets rewarded afterwards. So as long as you're marking with a yes, it doesn't matter how long after the treat comes, as you've marked the command that you want with that yes. Zeus is no fool, he knows I haven't got any treats, so you may find that you need to go backwards and use the treats. Yes, good boy. Some dogs may find this more difficult, some dogs may find it slightly easier. It depends on their body shape as well as how they sit. Good. The Zeus sits slightly wonky, so we're not going to push him too much to go into that bed. Yes, good boy. Ready? Beg. Good. So as we can incorporate our step when teaching the beg. Step. Good boy. If you do find that you need to support your dog, so you can hold an arm out. Ready? Step. 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 Come on. Step. Yes, good boy. To give them that extra bit of support. Good boy. Sit. Ready? Step. Step. Yes, good boy. So again, this can make some really fun, cool photos whilst you're off, and if you've got a bit of spare time at home to teach your dogs. Good boy. Yeah. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed our training session and got lots of tricks to get on with in the next week. We'll be back in touch next week for another live training session.